welcome to today's episode of the HR Sound Off podcast show. My name is Julie Turney and I am your host. HR Sound Off is by an HR professional, that's me, for HR professionals. I'm here to tell our stories in a way that other people would not understand or appreciate it, and for us to have the hard conversations about HR that we don't normally talk about around our self-care and our mental health. Joining me today for my conversation in the spotlight is Emily Connery from ChartHop. Emily, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me, Julie.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you, Emily. I'm really glad to be able to magnify your voice today. So why don't we get started by telling our audience a little bit about who is Emily Connery, what is your HR story, and how did you get here?
Okay, great. So, hello, everyone. So excited to be here today. I am an HR professional, but also a mom of two little ones. That's a big part of who I am. I grew up in a small town in Connecticut, but I had some opportunity to live abroad, and that really sparked interest in understanding culture and psychology and how experiences and backgrounds can shape us. I think that really inspired a college career in psychology. So that's what I studied. And then I went on to get my master's in counseling. I thought I
Mm,
wanted to be a therapist,
right.
which definitely still comes up in the HR role for sure.
Yes, yes, it
But but I ended up taking my first job actually as an executive assistant to a chief people officer, and that was my entry point into HR. And 11 or 12 years later, here I am still in HR.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing your story. What would you say are some of the things you've learned along the way in your HR journey that you'd like to share with our audience? Key takeaways for you for the last couple of years that you've been in HR.
Good question. I think first and foremost, it's definitely a role where the expectations of an HR professional are constantly changing based on whatever is happening in the world. And as we're all aware of, a lot has happened, particularly in the US
Mm,
in the last few years. And that has absolutely shaped, what's sort of expected of how companies will respond to the world and what we do internally in terms of programs, in terms of how we drive our company culture. And so I think, you know, being open to learning and trying not to take things personally when employees come with complaints about the company culture, about how leadership addresses things.
mhm.
Um, but just having an open mind and open heart, and seeing it all as a learning opportunity
Yeah.
and trying to figure out what you can control and what you can address within the walls of your company.
Mhm.
We certainly can't fix the world, right? But maybe there are some key levers we can pull within the walls of our own company.
Mhm.
And it's always impossible to make everyone happy.
Yeah.
I've definitely learned that the hard way. I used to think that could be possible, but it's really just not.
Mhm.
Um, I think figuring out how what you're doing in terms of people and culture can impact the bottom line of the business, and
Yeah.
focusing on the things that really matter there, and
Mhm.
making sure that we're being fair to people, that people are treated with respect, and that people are growing in their careers.
Yeah.
Ultimately, that's what everybody really wants,
Exactly.
and stuff on top of that is really just, the cherry on top. And I think there's going to be disagreement about the cherries, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
So
Always.
can't can't please everyone in that way.
Yeah.
Um, and I think too, self-care is super important in this job. You get a lot of feelings coming your way, and you can kind of act like a sponge. And it's a good thing because it means people are trusting you and coming to you, and that your team is truly getting the real pulse.
Yeah.
But
But
then
it's a
making
lot.
sure, yeah, it's a lot. So balancing with self care is for sure
Yeah.
important.
Definitely. I will be talking a little bit more about your self-care routine a little later. I just want to give the audience a little bit of a insight into your organization. So tell us a little bit about ChartHop and what you guys do, because I think it's really intriguing that you're helping organizations with their data issues.
Yes, yes. So we are a people analytics platform, but really to me, it's so much more than that. We have our entire people and talent function enabled by ChartHop. So from the start to finish an employee life cycle, everything is enabled by ChartHop. For example, from onboarding, employees can go and look at our org chart and zoom in and out of people's profiles or in and out
Mhm.
of teams to understand the company that they've joined and the individuals. We can configure a lot on profiles to have a really dynamic sort of directory where people can, read about me topics on everyone's profile, for
I like
example.
that. It's almost like
Um,
social media for your organization.
yeah, it absolutely is. And in a remote
Yeah.
context, it's really important.
Hmm.
We use it for our surveys, for our performance reviews, for compensation reviews. And so by enabling everything in there, the data is so much richer because I don't need to worry about pulling everything in from all these different spreadsheets.
Hmm.
I can really see it all live in one place and not worry
Yeah.
about, user error, things like that. And
Hmm.
executives, I can easily share data with them within the platform,
Yeah.
whether it's cuts of data or executive dashboards that I've created for them. We have our director of DEIB, she's created DEIB dashboards for all the
Right.
executives as well. You just easily share them right in the platform.
Right.
So everyone is using the platform to get data that they need and to perform the usual employee cycles.
Hmm.
So it's truly everything. It's kind of like our HRIS,
Yeah.
um, but absolutely very powerful around the data piece.
Yeah. I love that. It's one of those things that I always saying to people when you think about the profession of human resources, if you think about the iceberg and what's happening at the top and what's happening underneath, the analytics piece is what's happening in the bottom underneath in that iceberg, the things that we don't really get to touch because as you rightly said, a lot of times we're so focused on putting data together in spreadsheets, which is the most annoying thing for me in 2022.
The
Like, I
worst.
just feel like Excel has its place, but in HR, it does not have a place anymore.
Agree.
Like, we need to be
Completely
done
agree.
with
Yes.
that for
Yes.
sure. Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I really am super, I'm such a geek when it comes to tech as well. And I really am excited that ChartHop does provide this experience. It puts people experience on another level because the fact that I can go and learn about other people in my organization, almost like have a social media feel to it, that number one is really, really cool. But the
Mhm.
fact that we're able to touch all of these pieces of data and tell the people stories that really matter in one place
Mhm.
is is huge. That makes a huge impact on how the business is able to embrace HR and DEI and L&D and all the stories that we have to tell.
Mhm.
We're able to connect the dots between the business and what the business needs and create people stories that help us to get the products and services that we need to enhance the people experience. And it makes people architecture so much fun.
Agreed. Agreed. Julie, we got to get you on our sales team. That was like an amazing pitch. I mean, I'm sold all over again.
I told you I'm a geek and I really do love, especially when it comes to HR. Number one, I'm very passionate about HR. I'm very passionate about people being able to have a great experience in HR.
Hmm.
We don't get that very often. A lot of times we are working with Excel. We don't have a proper functioning HRIS platform
Hmm.
or L&D or recruitment ATS. A lot of companies don't give HR people those opportunities. So when I get to talk to people who are working in those organizations that actually get it, that understand what HR is and what
Hmm.
HR brings to the table, and help us to create that experience in a way that is easier for us. So we could do all the other stuff by giving us the tech that we need.
Absolutely.
That makes my soul sing, Emily. It
Yes,
really
yes. You said it perfectly. I really can't add anything to that. That is exactly what we're trying to build here. I think what we have built here and, the big vision for what we'll grow into as well.
and we definitely need to talk some more about how HR at Heart and ChartHop can work together because I feel like I could feel something here. I could feel it.
Yes, yes, let's do it. Awesome.
For sure. So let me ask you, Emily, what do you do for self-care? You are a very busy woman. You are a family woman. You're a working woman. You're a mother, you're a daughter, you're a friend, you're all of these other things. How do you take care of you?
Good question. So we live in the woods in Maine. So I love walking my dog, even if it's for 10 minutes, middle of the day. I try to block off something on my calendar so
Mhm.
that I can get outside and
Yeah.
just, go for a walk without being on my phone, um, without trying to not be in my head and just
Mhm.
looking around at nature. I think that's really helpful to me.
Yeah.
Um, we also, my husband is really supportive of allowing me self-care time. So we
Yeah.
set up a routine where he brings the kids to daycare in the morning, and in that window of time, I get on the Peloton bike and I do my 30-minute workout.
Nice.
And honestly, just having that time listening to music and, getting a good sweat on is really helping my mental health. That's a new thing that we just started recently.
Beautiful.
Yeah, those are really the two things.
Mhm.
Oh, I would say the third thing, I like to make a ritual out of my morning coffee, you know?
Ooh.
Yeah, and just finding a comfy spot to sit by a window and enjoying coffee, even if it's for 5 minutes. And, we have a nice coffee maker and good
Mhm.
creamer, a little steamer thing, and make a
Ooh,
whole little
fancy.
ritual out of it.
I
The
love
little
that.
things.
It's the little things. Listen, little things mean a lot, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially when you don't have them. So that's really wonderful. I'm glad that you're taking that time and you're a mom,
Yes.
importantly. And I think most HR professionals, we know that most HR professionals are female and most HR professionals are moms.
Hmm.
How do you balance mom life, um, especially working from home?
Yes. How do I balance mom life? Good question. I think, they go to daycare, which I had mixed feelings about. But sorry for the noise in the background.
That's
Um, but it's ultimately really good for them. I think, they get to socialize, they get to be with other kids, and when they're there, I check in every now and then with daycare to get updates, but otherwise, I just try to have my, 9 to 5 for me to focus on work and
yeah.
for me to just really be in it, to be focused, and um, to try to like remember me as my own person and
Yeah.
getting to just be in my work. And I think that sort of separation
Mm-hmm.
from being a mom, although you can't really ever fully separate from it, but
No.
you know, um, getting to focus on me as a professional is
Yeah.
really helpful.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for sharing that, Emily. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
So tell us what you're reading, watching, listening to right now that you think that our audience would appreciate.
Good question. So I created my list because I didn't want to miss anything. Um, I absolutely do like the trusted, traditional sources, SHRM
Yeah,
and HBR for specific topics.
yeah,
That would be me hunting for specific topics.
right.
Honestly, the ChartHop blog, not to make a shameless plug, but
I
is
must check it
great
out.
in terms of relevant articles and they're good reads.
Uh-huh.
Um, I also like Evil HR Lady,
Mm,
HR Bartender,
uh-huh.
Fistful of Talent,
Yes.
Tiny Pulse, and Workology.
Oh, nice. I do like Workology. Yeah,
Yes,
fistful of talent I love.
yes, yeah, it's great. Um,
Definitely a good one.
And it's kind of all very different
Right.
in terms of the angles and what they're writing about and opinions versus facts. And so
Yes.
I like having that variety.
Yes. Yes. Definitely. I like having that variety as well. I am a, I do like HBR. I really do think that that's an excellent resource.
Yeah.
And here of late, I have pulled a little bit between HBR and Forbes because I love hearing from the people on the different councils that they have, whether it's the coaches council or the HR council. They
hmm
really do share very good insights. So
hmm
you can learn, I learn a lot there too as well. Um, I would say not not to start a war or anything, but I am a CIPD girl.
Yeah, yeah.
Versus Sherm, I am very much 100% for CIPD. But I
hmm
think that they have great, what I love about CIPD is that they have great forums and they do lots of white papers and
hmm
very data driven, very data driven across various sectors in HR. And they
Oh.
have a podcast. They have open communities where you can go and talk about different things and get answers from HR professionals.
Oh,
I
wow. I have to
love
check
that.
it out.
I
Yeah.
love that about CAPD, and they
Great.
work very well with their government, with the UK government. So there's tons of resources, fact sheets that you can download for free, and
Oh,
that's without
amazing.
being a member of CIPD. So imagine the benefits you get when you're actually a member of CIPD is huge.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I'll have to check that out. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Definitely check out CAPD. I don't, just because I think people need, you need to be able to open your mind. And one of the things that I've learned, like as you mentioned before, you travel and that helped you to embrace cultures and things like that.
hmm
And I'm very similar that way. But I love when it comes to HR, I love to be able to speak about HR from a global perspective. And
hmm
you'd think that HR everywhere around the world would be very much similar, but it's
hmm
not.
No.
Yeah, culture plays a huge part in how people think and feel about
Absolutely.
HR, the profession and the people in it.
hmm
Some countries have a great respect for HR and
hmm
are fully on board with supporting their HR. And then there are some countries where the people don't care about HR and they have no respect for HR. It's just a necessary evil. And then there are
Yes.
other places where HR is embraced, fully embraced, people experience it embraced, products and services are easier to purchase and pull out, and support is easier to get. And in other
hmm
countries, it's not. So,
Yep, absolutely.
yeah.
I had spent most of my career in, US only companies
Yeah.
until my last job,
Mm-hmm.
and it was very global. A third of the company was in the US, but otherwise across the world. And just even around like diversity and inclusion, I was so surprised.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then it makes sense when you think about the different populations in different countries,
Yes.
how the US is so unique.
Mm-hmm.
And so, sort of like what the employees expected and wanted, ERGs, for example,
Mm-hmm.
to me seemed like a given that and that there wouldn't be any pushback. But
Right.
then other people in other countries were saying it seems like maybe that would be drawing more attention to differences between people and achieve the opposite result. I'm like, that's a totally different perspective
Yes.
on ERGs,
Mm-hmm.
but it makes sense given their different experiences in
Yeah.
different countries. So it's
Mm-hmm.
really enlightening.
Yeah, definitely. So I really do encourage people to just kind of embrace what the world has to say about HR
hmm
and how HR is practiced globally,
hmm
because we can't, it's easy to speak with one, in one way about one thing, which is what we know, whether
hmm
that's US based. But it's one of the challenges that I always have with the social media platforms, whether it be Instagram or TikTok. A lot of times people come on there and they are experts, but when you think about it, you're only an expert in the US.
Right.
You're
Yeah.
not an expert in the UK and you're not an expert in the Caribbean, you're not an
Yep.
expert in Asia. So what you're speaking to, you have to remember that your audience is US based, right?
Absolutely.
But you're also on a global platform. So try
Mhm.
to find a way to embrace the advice that you give in a global context.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Really good point.
So big question.
Yeah.
What is the biggest misconception about HR that really bothers you that you want to set the record straight on right here, right now? Give it to them.
I think the biggest misconception is that HR is all about, just protecting the company and doesn't care about individuals.
Yeah.
Especially if you're the head of HR. Maybe some people on your team are viewed more as employee advocates, but I think the head of HR often gets pegged as he or she is all about the company and doesn't really care about,
Mhm.
about individuals. And I think, that could not be farther from the truth.
You're right.
Um, I, at least, for me, I'm definitely a people person.
Yeah.
I I truly want to, create a connection with every person, and I, have that uncontrollable need for everyone to like me, which is impossible in my job, but I think, it's a tough job because we have to think about the collective group of people, and then address individual situations. And like I was saying before, there's really never a perfect outcome. There's a lot of gray area in HR where you
Mhm.
have to make difficult decisions, based on the data that we have, that we've gathered. And I guess it often comes across as HR is just thinking about the company and not an individual situation. And I want everyone to know that HR leaders absolutely do care about each individual at the company, but we also have to think about the collective unit.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. Well said. How does it make you feel when people say that though?
Ugh, it stinks. I mean, it doesn't fit with who I am outside of
Yeah.
work, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's this weird experience to, walk into work. I mean, I'm in my home, but and just have this different perceived persona all day long, right? That's very different to who I am with my friends, with my family, with my children.
Mhm.
Um, so it's definitely tough, I think it's honestly the worst part of the job, I'd say. And
Mhm.
I've been trying to think of ways around it. I don't really think there are. I think, it's just the tough part of the job. Every job has things that are
Every,
challenging.
every single
Yeah.
job.
Yeah.
I think that if you know that it's not true to you, that that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
People are going to paint HR with one brush.
Mm-hmm.
And so whenever people say that, and I hear it, it crushes my spirit in so many ways. Like I'm very similar to you. It
Mm-hmm.
very much crushes my spirit. And I just, first thing I do is I apologize. I say,
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm really sorry if that was your experience.
Mm-hmm.
And just like any profession, there's going to be good and bad.
Right.
And I'm sorry that that was your lived experience with HR, but all I could do is hope that in your next encounter with an HR professional, it would be better.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that, your perception of who we are as a collective
Mm-hmm.
would change as your experience with us get
Mm-hmm.
better. Because I'm always
Yeah.
pushing for, I'm hopeful it's gonna get better. You're gonna encounter a really great HR professional. But then I also share the other side of it because I think it's important for people to appreciate that, which
Mm-hmm.
is that a lot of times we are working with limited resources in people, in technology, and when the similar experience that you feel or perception that you have
Mm-hmm.
is a shared perspective, even in a leadership space, which sometimes makes it hard for us to do what we want to do. And a lot of times we feel like we're spinning in mud. So I just want you to be conscious of the fact that maybe that person had a bad day, maybe that person's having a bad time in the
True.
organization. And
Mm-hmm.
I just want you to be conscious of that. And then people go, "Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't
Yeah.
know HR went through all this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. Yep. Good
Yeah.
point. I like that.
Yeah. So it kind of helps people to embrace the possibility and the hope that
Mhm.
they will encounter, they will have better HR experiences and encounter the people that I know exist
Mhm.
in my profession and who I love and appreciate and respect very dearly.
Yep.
So
Yeah. That's
we
awesome.
all
I
live
like
in
that.
hope. We can live in hope.
Yes, yes, absolutely. But having each other, and just hearing that and that we have a shared experience, it's very validating. And I think HR people need other HR friends
Oh,
more than any other role. Like we need each other.
absolutely. Community is everything. And
Hmm.
it's part of the reason why I created this show so that, we can hear other HR voices and get a better appreciation for each other as professionals in our space.
Hmm.
And know that the experiences that we have are the same and also not the same, but also give us hope that
Hmm.
if we are having a bad time, we can hopefully experience a better future in HR. Because I
Hmm.
really do believe that the future of HR is very bright and hopeful. There's so much going on in this space right now. As you said, it's changing every minute. Where are the expectations that are put upon us are
Yep.
putting us in a better position now to be the architects that I know we are, like to do
Yes.
the things that we really can do. I don't get caught up in titles. I'm just about what's the experience that we're going to be able to create if
Yes.
we're given the opportunity to work in organizations that
Yep.
get it, that
Yeah.
understand the people drive the business. Profits don't happen without people.
Hmm.
And if you allow the people who are the custodians of the experience to do their job effectively, you will get increased profit. Increased profit means more loyalty from the people who work with you. They're more engaged, they're more creative, they're more innovative,
Hmm.
and your HR team can help you drive that.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Hugely it's a role where one can make a huge impact on the company. I think it's a fun role for the most part. I mean, we get to be creative, but there's also, a lot of facts and process, and so it's got that balance of, more ambiguous and creative space versus sort of sticking to the hard and true. And so I really like that. It's very dynamic and always keeps you on your toes, and you always have to be evolving with the world.
Oh, yes, definitely. It really does help for my ADHD.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Because I could move from one thing to the next very fluidly.
Mm-hmm.
I could go from recruiting to
Yeah.
sitting in a meeting and talking about people data. I could go from there to working on a policy, or I could move
Yep.
from there and go through a performance process.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. I totally agree.
Yes,
It keeps me energized, and
yes,
I'm never bored. There's never a dull moment. One of our
never,
favorite sayings in this job.
never a dull moment in HR for sure, for
No, no.
sure. Emily, it was an absolute pleasure speaking to you today. I could talk to you all day. You're so amazing.
Yes, we have to do this again. This was so much fun,
We
Julie.
definitely do. Well, my door is always open. You are welcome back
Oh, thank
on the
you.
show anytime. Tell us, lastly, what's next? What are you excited about right now? What's coming up next for you that's got you excited?
I think I've always worked at startups, and this is the earliest stage startup I've worked at. We're over 200 people now, and so it's a new challenge for me.
Mhm.
Especially in this market in the U.S. right now. There are definitely challenges and headwinds that we're up against.
Yeah,
And so it's a new challenge to make sure that we're scaling the culture with grace, that we're developing our people, that we're focused on retention, that giving meaningful feedback. Um, that I'm growing the managers. I think we have a large manager group, and some of them are new to management. We have a large middle management manager group, which I think needs a lot of love always,
Yeah.
that group.
Yep.
It's a
Oh,
tough
yeah.
spot, tough
Mhm.
spot.
Very
Um, so yeah, I'm excited about all these challenges ahead.
wonderful. Wow. Emily Connery, you've survived your time in the sound booth today. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your story and sharing your knowledge and your experience and your wisdom. I wish you all the best as you
Thank you.
continue your career at ChartHop and just giving you all the positive vibes and energy that you deserve to have.
Thank you so much, Julie. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And thank you for having me today.
My pleasure.